Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm Christine Kidder-Graves, your career coach, marketing career coach, helping you find work that works for you. And I love having these LinkedIn live conversations just to provide as much value to all of you out there. And I'm really happy to have another conversation with Heather Bennett, who is the author of this excellent book. I love it because of the title, Fun and Fulfilling Careers, One Question at a Time. Because questions are, in my opinion, excellent tools to help us get to where we want to go. And so often we're just so caught in busy action mode, and we need to pause, ask questions, be thoughtful, and go from there. So Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thank you for being here. And our discussion today is so many people are finding new jobs. I love this is a great time in our workforce right now because being on LinkedIn, I'm constantly seeing, as I'm sure you are, Heather, people starting new positions. It's really exciting and it's great.
Yes, it's definitely good. I'm very excited that there's a lot of, so it's funny, this morning I actually heard on a business radio show, they talked about it not as the Great Resignation, but the Great Reshuffle. And I think that's such a better way to look at it because these people are obviously going somewhere. So where are they going? And that's really an interesting perspective. And it's just a reshuffling of where people are working and who they're working for.
Yeah, it's a more accurate description. And so if you are one of those many people who have started a new job or will be starting a new job, or the other side too, you could be an employer because so many employers have openings that they've been trying to fill and you finally found the right person. It's wonderful, but then the work is only beginning. You've gone through so much to find someone, but now you have more work to do. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Heather, what do you think? I focus mainly on the individual. However, I do some work with employers too, but that's my main focus. What do you think that employers need to focus on when they have that new employee who's going to be starting in 2 weeks?
Well, it's definitely something that's been in my mind probably for about 6 months, is really understanding that relationship between the employer and the employee and how to strengthen that. And I think the beginning of that relationship when they first start working, I mean, it really begins when they're interviewing, but when they've accepted the job and they're hired, is really solidifying the trust and building that relationship so that they can both trust each other. And I feel that's where you can really get a strong sense of engagement in the work.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And then also too, getting to know each other is a really good thing. I mean, so often we might compartmentalize our work and our personal life, but we're a human being and we're showing up to work. And that's one of the things that makes work enjoyable is getting to know your team members, getting to know your boss. I remember when I first started off in my career being intimidated by the leaders who were in the C-suite because you put them on a pedestal and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they get there? But they're human beings too. We're all human beings in the workforce.
Yeah, I think it's so important to really make a plan for what that looks like. And it used to be easy because you'd be like, okay, we're just going to walk you around the office and introduce you to all the individual people, and you'll do lunch with this person this day, lunch without, that was fine. And now that we're in this unique hybrid work situation where you may not be able to physically be in the same room as your entire team, how do you go about structuring having those meetings and those one-on-ones with the team and doing that soon enough in the process that you can make that icebreaker a little bit more comfortable? as opposed to once they've been working there for a month or two, then they're like, ooh, is it inappropriate for me to ask, like, oh, so where do you live? And what do you like to do in your free time? It's a lot easier to do that when it's in the setting of, this is our first time meeting each other.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Gone are the days of, just meeting with HR to do your onboarding and like for half a day or whatever. And that's it. You're just like thrown in the deep end of the pool and you just have to kind of figure it out. So yeah, because and in this virtual world, I mean, being like really intentional to set up time to have conversations, getting to know conversations, just doing it on Zoom, but blocking out that time to do it and to get to know people, as many people as possible, but gradually too, because that's the other thing. You don't want to overwhelm. You don't want to do information overload with your new employee.
That's a lot, especially when you know that they're trying to learn. We always talk about that ramp up phase when you first get a job and how much you have to learn about the work, how the work's going to get done, who you need to know, what are the processes of that work area. And to have to do that ramp up at the same time as the building of relationships is hard. So I like your idea of spreading it out. That's a really good recommendation.
Yeah. So it does need to be plotted out because there's the personal aspect, there's the work aspect, and to do it too from a strategic standpoint, like maybe to start from the top and like drill down. So the employee gets an idea, can start to put the pieces together of the different departments, who they're going to be working with, how it impacts their role, how to be successful in their role, like how their role factors into that, contributes to the overall success of the organization. And that's key because you and I know any position, in order for it to be approved, there has to be a financial justification. It has to be accountable for something that contributes to the company's performance. So but how many employees really get that when they first start off at a company? Do they really get that full view, and to be able to understand how they are really contributing is important.
Yeah, and there's two things with that. It's both the financial, how are they increasing the profitability and the growth and the revenue growth of the company? What are they doing? It helps them because then they know as an employee what goals they should be trying to reach and what key performance indicators they should be trying to meet to do their job successfully. But it also works the other direction, where if they know what they're supposed to do and they know, and it's clearly put out how they can be successful at this new role, they'll be more likely to be engaged and have a greater sense of pride and investment in the work they're doing for the company. And that's where that trust and that increase in loyalty can happen.
Yes, because they have skin in the game. I mean, they understand.
Yeah, exactly.
They understand the why of their job, which is so essential for engagement. And then, of course, when that engagement is there, then someone wants to stay. So then that helps retention.
Exactly.
It's huge. It's really very, very important. So, are there any creative ways that you have heard of, that employers, like new ways that they're implementing to improve engagement and retention? Like one of the things that I had heard of that I really liked a lot, but it occurred probably shortly after the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic kept on going and going, and it's still going. I mean, initially I think we were thinking it wouldn't last as long as it has. But human resources people, actually meeting employees somewhere at a park and just being outside and keeping distance, but just going out for a walk. And that way to get to know each other and engage and just say, okay, well, let's meet here and let's take a break. I mean, just something like that is is a creative way of just breaking up the monotony. And I mean, it just has so many benefits to it. So,
well, and what's key about the example you just gave, and this can be applied to other ways to do this, is taking those team members out of their ordinary element. And, this is like a trick that's been used for years in innovation and technology teams. Like, how do you get the R&D people to think outside the box, is to take them out of their everyday work life. And whether that's physically doing it, or having them meet, in a Zoom room or in an online meeting in a way that they've never done before. I've seen recently some very interesting ways to apply this using virtual reality, or even, I would say you could even do augmented reality, but probably virtual reality, where you're having people meet in a virtual space in a way that gets them out of what their normal everyday way of working or way of thinking is. So that's one way I'd say to keep people engaged is, how do you, we already talked about making sure you schedule that and making sure it's part of the plan and it's planned and intentional. But another way to be intentional is to intentionally kind of like shake up what's going on by getting them out of their element.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And even another good way to get out of the element is just for, maybe they can shadow another employee as they're doing their job. I mean, granted, not everyone is in the office again, but it can be done virtually too. But to get a peek into someone else's job, to actually see how they do something really helps learning, helps understanding, and it really kind of helps to put the pieces together too. So, so shadowing someone else for a little bit. And again, that's part of the orientation. That could be part of the orientation process, that goes on. I mentioned your book when I introduced you earlier. And again, what I love about it is fun and fulfilling careers, one question at a time, because questions are just so great to ask and to pause. So how would you recommend, like, someone has finally landed in their new role, they're very excited, how would you recommend someone who is going to be starting a new job or who has started a new job use your book to get up to speed quickly in their new role?
Well, there's in the latter part of the book, I talk a lot about doing the due diligence and the research for where you are needed in the world in terms of you're starting a job hunt. You don't have a job, what industries could you go into? What companies would be a good match? Those same type of techniques can be applied within an organization, within a company. And what that may mean, I would say the first layer is to go interview people, not just in your department that you're going to be working in, but the ones that directly tie to how you will get your job done. So in order to generate revenue, you're probably going to need to work with supply chain people, or you're probably going to be needing to interact with the finance department, or new product development, or even operations. So understanding and asking the questions, and I think your idea of shadowing is perfect for this, because then you can ask someone who's doing a job similar to yours, who do you interact with from outside the department, so that I can get a more global strategic view of how my role is going to make a better impact. So definitely doing your due diligence to not only learn what you're about the company and what it looks like going forward, which is basic. You do that for any company you'd want to work for. Are they going to go bankrupt tomorrow or not? At least go in knowing that. And then, but beyond that, what size is the company? Where do they operate? Who are their customers? Like all of those basics. But beyond that, get to know the people you are going to be working with and ask those people who they work with. So you have a better and more holistic view of how you're going to impact the company.
Yeah. That's great. Those are great suggestions. And that's a good segue too into my next question, or maybe more of an extension of that. like what other things, so just from an employee perspective, so again, that person who is in a new job or is starting a new job, what other things can that person do? Because I think too, it's important to really take ownership of your onboarding and not be passive and not just sit and wait for your hiring manager to explain things to you, or wait for HR to give you an overview. How can someone really take control of it and stand out too, become a good performer, a stellar performer, in their new role.
So really, it's so important that you mentioned that they need to take ownership of that. And that's really the concept of engaging work, is if you own your work and you own the product of your work, then you will more likely find it fulfilling, engaging, and you'll want to do a better job. Part of wanting to do the better job is knowing what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So big
Yes.
part of this is, and it's okay to be hired for a job that you are not completely prepared to do if you're willing to put the time and effort into gaining those skills, gaining that knowledge, gaining that expertise, and practicing. And that's why we call it a ramp up. It's definitely a ramp up phase when you first start a job. That phase is there in order to get you ready to do the job full time. Most of the time, people do not expect you to hit the ground running on that first day.
Mm-hmm.
So being willing and vulnerable enough to ask for help when you need it and ask what else you need to know.
Yes. Yeah. And you made me think of performance management, and that's something, every company is different. Performance management, the annual review process, as many have thought about or refer to it. Now I think the review process is getting more frequent, which is good. It shouldn't just be a once a year thing. But it's important to get that started, getting that really good communication started between the employee and the hiring manager. And so that's the most important, but also too with their coworkers, and just trying to understand the communication style. When you interviewed with this hiring manager, hopefully, like walking in the door, you have a good understanding of what their management style is, because everyone is different in their management style. I kind of look at it as being a parent, and everybody parents is a different type of parent. There's no like one size fit all. And just really understanding their management style, and what's going to work. How do you build that good, healthy working relationship with this new manager that you're reporting to? And a part of it is having good communication and making sure that you're both on the same page in terms of what is the ramp up period, and what are the deliverables, and then what are some things that you need. Like you said, no one should think that they have to be 100% ready to go up to speed in a job, unless it's some type of special situation. What is it that that employee is going to need? What tools will they need? What training will they need in order to be successful in the role?
And from the employer perspective, that's a great way to increase engagement. If you show when your employee comes to you and says, I need more development, I need more training, if you're open to that and you recognize that by continually providing learning, development, training throughout their career, they'll stay more engaged because they see that you value them enough to give them the tools to advance their career, and you've given them the opportunity to do that. I think your point about the performance review it's changed. It has definitely changed over the years. And key to that is open communication and having it like regular check-ins. So that's another thing when you had mentioned you wanted to talk about this, I was thinking about, is to have those more regular check-ins with your team and with your direct reports is really important. And, if it seems difficult, then figure out, what habitual triggers will automatically cause a check-in. Is it every time you land a sale? Is it every time you complete a project or you hand in a deliverable, you automatically do a postmortem? So it's more than just saying, it's more than a report card that says you did a good job or you didn't. There's an opportunity for learning and to do it better next time. So by having that continuous learning, you're really creating that loyalty and trust and increasing the engagement of the employee.
Yes. Yeah. And while I was listening to you, you made me remember my last conversation with Erin Deal about, I think about onboarding and new employee engagement. And we were talking about tech tools to help with engagement too. And it's not just for new employees, all employees. And Erin said in her organization, they really like using Slack. Slack really helps them. So have you heard of any other tech tools that employers are using or that teams are using to really facilitate communication?
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a lot out of there, and you need to Slack does a great job. One I've been using recently is Signal. So that's with a smaller group. But again, it is a quick and easy way to have a very focused, secure, targeted conversation in a text format that allows you to share information, video clips, whatever. But the idea being that you have that space where the employees know they can go to have those communications. And it's offline, it's in a unique environment. So it's safe for them to talk. And I think that's really key. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that are new to the table recently.
Two other ones that I thought of, but I don't think that they're super new. They've been around a little bit, but it depends on your needs, because you need to find a tool that meets your needs. So like maybe Voxer could be used, possibly, that might be a resource. And then I just remember Teams was just so seamless in terms of facilitating work. I had a very good experience working with Teams as well.
Yeah, I've heard Trello works well too. So that's another option. But, part of it too is looking at what would work best for your industry and your organization. There may be a software that you're using for something else that would also work well for this. So looking at the software that you're already using to get the work done and seeing if there's a way to integrate in that way would be good.
Yes. Yeah. And while you were talking to, another thing that popped into my head, we were just talking about communication and going back to between the hiring manager and the employee. I remember that phrase of open door policy, but it's kind of laughable.
No doors anymore.
I know.
There's no doors anymore. We went away from the doors when we lived in cubicle world and we, nobody had offices anymore. And now the doors have even broken down further. I've learned so much about my colleagues and the people I work with because I'm seeing them from their homes, from their home office, from wherever they happen to be traveling. You learn so much more about an individual when you're able to communicate in those settings. And that's a good thing. I found it to be a very good thing.
It is a good thing. Yeah. I mean, I've learned so much about, you and the other people that I get to work with. And it's really cool. And it's fun. It's just, so I guess I would say that's one of the silver linings of the pandemic. So that the doors have been blown off the frame of the open door policy because, like you said, there's no cubicles, no offices. It's like there's no container. So it's like, we're all out there. So that's really good. So we have 5 minutes left. So I guess my final question to you is, if we, what do we want to leave our audience with, and helping them with this whole all the work that needs to be done with engagement, with really plugging in your new employees. And if you are a new employee, taking ownership. So again, from both perspectives, for the employee and the employer, what's the biggest thing to focus on with this work to be done?
I think the key is what you talked about: communication, keeping clear lines of communication, because obviously when you're building trust, you want to make sure people are understanding each other. Having an environment that allows for mistakes and being okay with failure, because communication can break down, and especially when you're getting to know how other people respond best to a work situation, and how what the leadership style is of a manager and what the work style is of a worker employee. So that, and then of course, offering that support and those clear, continuous support, whether that's through constant check-ins or having leadership development offerings and training, continuous training, in order to develop the career of the employee. That will definitely increase the engagement between the employer and the employee. And then fun. I mean, you have to think about fun too. I mean, this is where we spend, I think somebody just mentioned it's a third of our life that we spend working, right? So how do we make this fun? And understanding that small celebrations are definitely worth doing. So having those rewards, those recognition, and whether that's a fun dance party on a Thursday afternoon, or even something smaller, like making sure that thank you notes are written to every member of the team once a major goal is hit, or a deliverable is completed. Having those little points of recognition and rewarding your employee and your team can go a long way.
Yeah, those things can definitely go a long way. And it comes down to, connection. So whether we are in the office, or we're doing hybrid, or we're 100% virtual, it's connecting with our team members, and then, just working together and doing your best. And I love what you said about, making mistakes. We all make mistakes, and we have to be in a work culture that is okay with mistakes, because I had been in one that was not, and that was just that hurt morale so much, because we're all going to make mistakes. We can count on that, and we need to be able to leverage them and learn from them, and to be able to then go from there and take action. So thank you for that comment. That was amazing. I do want to remind people about your awesome book again. So Heather, I think it's on Amazon, right? People can buy it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, it's Fun and Fulfilling Careers, One Question at a Time. And then my plug is I'm doing my master class. It's my Find Your Ideal Role in 90 Days with a career plan. So it's April 11th. So I will put the registration link in the comments too. But Heather, thank you again for joining me today for this really important conversation. And just thank you. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Christine.
So, all right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. And everyone, thank you. I did check the comments. I didn't see any questions, but if you do have follow-up questions, you can reach Heather or me here on LinkedIn, or, other social media platforms that we're on. And have a great day. Bye, everybody. I'll end the broadcast here.